Uh, Blaine, I'll turn it over to you to introduce our guest speaker.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, big thanks to our Representative Ken Fleming for joining us here today. I think the objective here is to have him give us a little bit of a recap of what was a very busy 30 days of the legislative session with lots of legislation that was passed and many bills that I believe ended up going through to override of some vetoes and whatnot. And Ken, I also told the group that we'll try to leave a few minutes for Q&A if they have any specific bills or things that they wanted to talk about. I did send out, or Al did send out the bio on Ken. He does represent parts of Oldham County as well as Jefferson County. It's his second term in office. You know, again, doing a great job representing all of his legislative districts. So I won't go into the rest of his bios. I want to save some time here. I'm just going to turn it over to Representative Ken Fleming. So let's give a big hand to Ken.
Is it like this? Isn't it like this?
Something like that.
Well, thank you, Blaine, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk with y'all. And yeah, as Blaine said, I'm on vacation this week, and I got a call this morning about from the governor to come in and sign or witness one of his signatures in the bill that helped pass in regards to some things going on in Louisville, the West End Opportunity Partnership. But obviously, I couldn't make it, so it's nice for him to include me. And Mike, it's a pleasure to be honest with you. I took Jason Nemus and David Osborne's lead on the jails and so forth. They know it more intimately than I do, but I knew it was the right thing to do, given y'all's situation and trying to shift some money to help y'all out. So, so don't ask me any detailed questions about that because I really won't be able to. I'll have to defer that to Jason and the David. But in any event, yeah. Well, once again, I do appreciate the opportunity. I apologize for the lighting. I'm in my daughter's room. We've got some things going on here in terms of updating some walls and our HVAC. So I have some workers coming in and doing stuff. So apologize for the lighting. But yeah, this year was a very interesting year. And I guess in a general sense, we basically had to address the second half of a 2-year cycle of budget. And I remember last year, we had to cut short our discussions in the budget because of the COVID, and basically just got a bill that just get us through the next year. And this year, we found ourselves in really more of a continuation type of a budget, and we kept a very I wanted to have a really tight rein on what we need to do because there's a huge influx of money coming in from the feds, and we wanted to make sure, and it's our responsibility as General Assembly to make sure that those funds are allocated properly and prudently in order to help folks, particularly businesses, recover from the COVID. There were PPP loans y'all probably might know about that helped out. That we basically passed a bill. It was Representative Flannery, and before that, I worked with the chairman of A&R, and we were going to put this in the budget, but we went ahead and tried to get the ability to allow the businesses to write off that money that goes toward the utility cost and other types of costs like rent and so forth. You can write those things off because the Revenue Department did not allow the state to do that, but they were doing it on the federal level. So he passed that to help that out. So the PPP loan really helped out businesses from that point of view in terms of not taking care of a lot of costs. That was just one of the things we had to address this particular cycle in terms of trying to help businesses out and get things moving in a better direction. This second half, like I said, we were really focused on fiscal discipline, financial stewardship, if you want to call it that, and then really look at strategic investments. For example, we put in like $140 million in full day kindergartens, which is pretty unheard of. In addition to that, we pumped in, I want to say it's like $75 million, I think that's right, into school facilities. And if you look at that in terms of on a per pupil increase in terms of using the SEEK funding, it's like about $171, $175 increase, which is a significant increase in terms of education. So when it comes to this, I think you'll look back and see how we really focus on education for those two particular things. And we also passed what we call a House Bill 563, which is basically the school scholarships. I know that was a sort of a controversial issue. A lot of folks out in the state had a little hard time with that because feel like they're taking money away from the public school system. But basically, it allows parents the option to use money that they have to go through an organization, that they will receive money from individuals, which will be a tax deduction. And then those monies can be allocated to public and private children go to private and public schools for children that are low income. And those income criteria, you have to meet around less than $84,000 in a family of four in order to qualify. So there's a means testing in order to do that. But in any event, between that and those other things, we put a lot of money into education. One particular thing we talked about, and I know from my and walking the area in Oldham County and talk to folks, education and transportation are pretty important to Oldham County. And you'll notice, I'm sure you have gone down 71. That process is really taking root in terms of making sure those lanes are going to be widened. And Senator Ernie Harris, who retired some time ago, put a lot of effort in making those things come to reality. And so we're starting to see that materialize as well. Which leads to one thing we did talk about this year, but it obviously didn't come to fruition, is a gas tax. The reason it didn't come up, there wasn't enough support, to be honest with you, throughout the General Assembly, not only on the Senate side, but also the House side to have that come up in terms of having a vote. Will that come up? It will. I would say it'll probably come up next in 2022. To what degree? I don't know. They're looking at a 10-cent increase in that tax, and I know it would benefit Oldham County to have that tax and to help out with your roads and so forth, because y'all are definitely growing and need to basically have the infrastructure there to support a lot of your growth and so forth. We did a couple things. A lot of people, this is really under the radar screen. Over the past several years, we have, I guess, taken from Peter to give to Paul. I guess the best way I can say it, and that is there is a last pay period of the fiscal year, which is in June. And that pay period is delayed one day in order to make the budget, meet the budget. And we've basically changed the, I guess that and several other things to make sure that we pay those, make that payroll and make other obligations in the fiscal year of doing that. That's what I classified as a structural change. So we try to look at that type of approach in terms of having things occur in the fiscal year. The other thing we did is there's always been a sort of another taking from Peter to give to Paul, and that is we took money from the road budget to make the obligations and make the budget meet on the general funds. We stopped that as well. So we want to make sure the road money stays in road money, and we found money in terms of doing the meeting the budget and so forth. I want to just touch on I'm trying to find my notes because there's so many things to go over. And I really can't, I don't know why I can't find it, but there's a lot of things that we did in terms of taking money from from the feds in terms of the stimulus, and we want to make sure that that money is allocated appropriately. One thing we did, you might have heard the problem with the unemployment claims and trying to go through all that stuff. That's been, to be honest with you, it's been a debacle. It's been very difficult in fielding those questions from folks who have lost their jobs and try to find or try to file for their unemployment, and getting delayed and not having the phones answers and so forth. And that's been very difficult. Well, what has happened is a couple of things. One, there was an effort around $15 to $16 million to try to correct that. It did not correct it the way it should have been corrected. In addition to that, what we had to do is the unemployment account was basically depleted, and we had to go and borrow money from the feds to around $700 million, and in order to meet those obligations. So what we did, which is sort of crazy, the money we took, about $575 million, we received from the stimulus, we basically turned that around and paid off or paid down that loan that we got from the feds in order to get us back to break even. So that's something we did with the money in terms of being really prudent to reduce our debt and so forth, but also meet the obligations and so forth. So unemployment, continues to be a struggle. We get a lot of phone calls from that still. Obviously, it's an administration challenge and issue. It goes back to like 2008 in terms of the money that we had that time was not invested prudently in terms of upgrading the technology and making sure that we go through and be prepared for things that like this to come, to come around. Unfortunately, we didn't invest at that time, and we sort of pushed the ball around for many, many years. But we did put $10 million from this budget into correcting the technology in order to get that going. I think it's around 50 to $60 million that we need to invest in order to correct that and such. So the other thing we did is during this year, we had election reform, and is a really strong bipartisan approach that brought in quite a few parties, both Democrat and Republicans, folks who wanted a really, I guess, a liberal approach to election. You have people who really want a really strong conservative approach to how to handle the elections. And I think what we've come up with is, and what's really credit to Michael Adams, is a pretty good structure. And it passed overwhelmingly in terms of having better elections that we can have for next year. Some of the things we basically is like no excuse election for like Thursday, Friday, and Saturday before the election. You can come in and vote, and quite a few other things. So that's the things that's probably pretty notable that we did. Like I said, I know they've had some problems in Georgia and other folks, but I think you should, at least I feel pretty proud, and hope you should take note that our election reform has been pretty good. So I'll stop there. I mean, I can keep going, and I apologize a little bit rambling on some things, but I'd be more than happy to answer any questions y'all might have, the best of my ability. But it's okay, Courtney, hold on for a second. but we took a very systematic approach to making sure that the money that we have received from the feds and the money we currently have in the General Assembly is put forth in the best way. The governor put forth a budget. We felt that there's some things that we needed to change. Didn't totally agree what he was trying to do, but I think we've done a pretty good job with that. And now we got to go right back into the General Assembly, I guess, in January to do hopefully our 2-year budget cycle, which hopefully things will be a little more of a normal environment. So, Courtney, do you have a question?
You, Ken. Thank you. And yeah, thank you for all the work that you do for us. I'm glad that you're back representing us in Frankfurt, but I do have a question that relates to Marcy's Law. So are you aware of any plans in the upcoming budget legislative session to address our budgetary concerns as a result of the passage of Marcy's Law due to the increased workloads on prosecutors as a result of our increased responsibilities?
Courtney, there has been conversations, and to be honest with you, I have not been, I haven't been involved in those conversations. I know that's going to be a definite conversation, and from a budgetary standpoint next year.
Okay.
To what degree, I don't know. I'll be more than happy to follow up with you, but it's I know it's on the table, and I know it's being talked about. To what degree, I really can't you know, give you more heads up on that.
Well, and I know I'm asking about the future, but we know it's coming down the pike. So I just thought I'd ask it. I'm glad to hear there has been some discussion, and you and I can talk about it at some later date.
Yeah, I'd be glad to.
Thank you.
I see Denise has raised her hand.
Yes, good afternoon, Representative Fleming and everyone. First, let me thank you for fiscal responsibility regarding that federal stimulus money. That could have, oh, thank you. I also wanted to ask if you are aware of what's going on with the Article 5 position on Convention of States.
You know what? I know what you're referring to. I have received probably about 20 to 30 emails. Other people have been receiving the same emails, but to be honest with you, Denise, it really hasn't been a topic of conversation over the past quite a few months. Obviously, we've been focused on the budget and the things that revolve around the budget and so forth, but I am aware of it, but as far as any conversation among the General Assembly, I am not aware of any.
Thank you.
Okay, all right.
We'll work on improving that.
Okay, okay.
Well, and I will just, as a follow-up to that, Representative Miller, Jerry Miller, one of your fellow Oldham County representatives, he was a House sponsor, I believe it was 2 sessions ago, of that particular Article 5 Convention of States resolution. Would love to, there's a few of us that are supporters of that. I will admit I am one of them, and would love to see your support on that as well. I see some other folks have taken themselves off of mute. I don't know if that's to queue up here. Joyce, did you have a question?
Well, I do have a question. Representative Fleming, you and I have met. I'm Joyce Fletcher. I'm chairman of the Oldham County Board of Education.
Yes, ma'am.
I do not see evidence in the budget that the money for all day kindergarten is present for next year. And B, to increase the SEEK funding to the extent that you suggested means an approximate increase of $100 to $140 million. And I don't see evidence of that in the budget. Would you please forward that to us in Oldham County?
Sure. It's in it's in House Bill 556. We passed 2 bills toward the end, 556 and 321, and that's the money is in there. So if you want to go to those bills and pull those up, it should be listed there. And I can forward that to you if you want me to. Yeah, I can forward that to you. Yeah, and just to clarify, I mean, I wasn't saying that it's the SEEK funding is going to be permanently increased, you know, by that amount of money, but it's equivalent to that. I know, there's been conversation to try to increase, well, if you look back, $140 million for the full day kindergarten, we're going to basically find $140 million to keep that, sustain that, in order to make that more permanent instead of just, just using this one-time money. So we will have to basically go through and find the money, which I know there's a commitment to doing that.
So the money is, as you said previously, committed, but you haven't identified the funding for next year.
No, ma'am, be honest, we have not, but I know there's a commitment to find the money. The other thing, which brings me I guess another point, part of what I want to try to accomplish next year is go through what I call phase 2 tax reform. And with that, I've already identified a significant amount of money in terms of tax exemptions and tax credits and so forth. And what we want to do is at least what I'm going to try to do is try to focus that money on education. So that's one area in the back of my mind in order to help sustain that $140 million, which we passed, to fund that, to put money into that, to keep the education going. Because obviously that's one of our pillars, at least to me, it's a pillar of our Commonwealth, to have a strong education program.
Completely agree. You did say in your remarks that public education was a high priority, this legislation, and I just don't see that. And what typically happens is Frankfurt passes unfunded mandates, and then those bills get handed to the county. So I want to make sure that is not happening.
Well, and so that's a good point, Joyce. And there are, I have a little hard time as well with unfunded mandates, but in being on the Appropriations and Revenue Committee and working with the chairman, Petrie, he's from Todd County. We want to make sure, and I've talked to him on several occasions, and we're looking at, like I said, a tax reform, a second phase. We're looking at making sure where we have, those things will be funded. Because you're right, it puts the counties in a precarious, and school districts in a precarious situation, requiring y'all to go through that process without any assistance and help. I perfectly understand with you. I can say that we're going to be working hard to make that happen. I can't promise you anything, but there is and I'll be honest with you, what I can see, that there's a different attitude when it comes to being more frugal and committed with the taxpayers' money to make sure that programs are funded and we don't overpromise. Just like transportation, I can't tell you the numbers of hundreds of millions of dollars that politicians go through and say, yeah, I can do that road, it's great, but yeah, it never comes. We're basically taking a different approach in terms of making sure those things, we fulfill those promises the best way we can. And if we don't, then if we don't come out and say it's not going to happen, then shame on us, because we got to be upfront and transparent to folks and let them know things can happen or things can happen.
Thank you.
All right. Tommy, I see you were off of mute. I don't know if you had a question.
I'm good. That was an accident.
All right. Other questions out there?
Ken,
think
this
Denise
is Mike.
was- I'm like,
Okay. It's interesting when you were talking to Joyce. So undoubtedly the funding issue that she had questioned about for the schools actually fell under the same House bill as for the jails, House Bill 556.
that's right.
Wow.
Thank you, Mike. I went blank on that. I'm glad you said that, because I knew that. There's several other things in that 556 that we put in there.
Right.
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I wish I had a bill in front of me, but there's quite a few things. That's one thing about the General Assembly. When you and I don't like this process, to be honest with you. And I'll say this in a kind way, but sometimes, when you have a bill, you start to load things up on a particular bill and you shift things around. And things get thrown in there that could be a hodgepodge of things. And that's what the 556 is. There's a hodgepodge of things, but those are things that, a lot of folks in General Assembly wanted to commit in terms of funding and doing that stuff. But thanks, Mike, for bringing that up. You're right. I went blank on where it was. I thought it was in 321, but it is in 556.
Yes.
I think Denise had a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Denise.
Thank you. Another question is Joyce was bringing up schools. Are we doing anything as a state to assure that curriculum such as the 1619 project does not infiltrate into our school districts?
Denise, I can answer this question. Though, I haven't heard of anything of right now, to be honest with you, but I have been receiving. In fact, I was texting you about a couple hours ago with several representatives that they're getting concerned. They're hearing some of this criteria in the books and so forth. I don't know too much about it. I need to, I guess in the interim, I need to find out a little more about what's going on with that. But other than that, I haven't heard too much about that.
I do know I was substitute teaching up until the start of the pandemic. And I know that I saw some 1619 clubs at one or two of our high schools. And I think the Alabama Project also has a club at the school. I know that's extracurricular and that's less restrictive, but I'm just seeing a great concern with the way our students are engaging at our expense into some areas that are not based on fact or science, and yet we're promoting them.
I understand. I've been hearing that. I've been hearing that from folks that are sending me some emails and so forth.
What is 1619?
You don't want to know. It's a study put out through the New York Times that says that America did not originate in 1776, and America started in 1619. It was started for the purpose of promoting slavery. It postulates slavery as if it did not exist anywhere in the world until it came to the United States of America in 1619, and that America is a systemically racist country, and all of the other evils inherent in that. And so it's being promoted, and it's a basis to promote the concept of reparations, and it's divisive, it's false, and but it's spreading now. And what the current federal administration has done is advocate that the 1619 project be promoted, while the 1776 project, which came along to refute the 1619 project, the 1776 project is being nullified. And so it's up to our schools to prevent this stuff from happening.
Ken, I'm gonna put you in the hot seat again here, if I may. Your seatmate, Representative Nemes, over the last couple of sessions has put forth legislation that would require a vote on any bill that has 40 or more sponsors. Where do you stand on that legislation?
Blaine, if part of my thought, if you're looking at trying to push through legislation, and particularly when you have a bipartisan approach and support, then you know, it should be pushed forward. I mean, part of my thought is like, it should be, you know, we should vote on it, you know, and then let the chips fall when they may. It is a little bit of a risk in terms of maybe not having control of the process, which I can understand that. But you know, I haven't really come down hard on one side or the other, Blaine. But there is thought that if there is a mass amount, and 40 is a pretty good number out of 100, that's 40%. Then, you know, then some legislation needs to be discussed and talked about. One thing I really wish the General Assembly do more, that, you know, if there is a topic or an issue that needs to be discussed, it should be discussed in the committee, and let it, you know, it can die in committee or it can proceed in committee, but it needs to be flushed out, because I guess we need to have as much representation and many thoughts and ideas to be put into the process in order to you know, to make the, you know, best policies going forward, as well as having the best funding available. I don't know if I answered your question. I lean to have more. I lean more on what you know, what Jason, where he's going down, and what his approach and his thoughts are. You know, and I think, like I said, if there's enough synergy and discussion and support for a particular issue, then it needs to be fleshed out and discussed more, you know, in a committee format. And if
I
it
think
goes on,
that,
assembly,
I
it
think,
goes on assembly.
I think his whole intent is that in many times, and you certainly see this, leadership can basically stop legislation from whether it's getting a hearing or getting to the floor. So whether it's a controversial bill, I know he's been very much in favor of things like medical marijuana, which, you know, doesn't seem to ever be able to get to the floor for a House vote, which again, leadership can stop that. So I think that's his intent, is that if there's a pretty broad level of support, and 40%, like you mentioned, is pretty good indication that there should be at least a committee hearing to discuss the issue. So I know Mike has to leave here in just a second. We're at the top of the hour. Did anyone else have one last burning question before we let Ken get back to his vacation?
Well, one thing, I mean, Blaine, I mean, I was sent up there to make hard decisions, and, you know, I'm not going to sit back and, you know, and dodge issues, or if I don't know something, I'll tell you I don't know it, or if I need more information, I'll tell you I need more information. But I'm not foreign to making hard decisions. That's why I made hard decisions in the past, and I'd be more happy to, you know, take things out. One thing I know I do is, you know, I'll research an issue, I'll talk to folks, and I'll draw upon my experience, and I'll do the best to make the best decision possible going forward. You know, but just, you know, we just try to do our best given what we have available. But we're going to make the hard decisions, and if anybody in a General Assembly that's afraid to make a hard decision, then they need a question if they should be there or not.
I think most of us would agree with that. Well, with that, I think we're going to let you go back, and hopefully it's a nice sunny day out there for you.
It is.
All right. Well, thank you again for being our speaker. If you're not aware, one of the things that we do as a Rotary Club is, in honor of you being our speaker, we do make a donation to the Polio Plus campaign. That's been an effort of Rotary to eradicate polio from around the world. We're down to basically 2 countries, Pakistan and Afghanistan, that still have cases of the wild polio virus. So we are very close to eradicating that from the world. So again, we'll be making that donation in honor of you being our speaker today. So again, everybody, let's give a big round of applause for Ken being our speaker today.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate your time. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Ken.
Hey, thanks, Ken. Okay, guys, I apologize. I do have to go. I've got to get ready for my fiscal court meeting. Again, next Tuesday, Zoom, April 20th. We're going to get the information out there to everybody. April the 20th, in person and Zoom, both. Be safe. I've got to run. Thank you all. Good meeting. Thank you, Blaine, for what you've done. Thank you.
And for everybody that is still left on here, again, if you've got someone that you want to bring on as a guest of yours to sit in, this gal is a very dynamic speaker, two-time cancer survivor. She's a motivational speaker. She's a personal friend of mine. She's got a great message to share with. If you have never had someone that's had to deal with cancer, with any sort of a medical emergency or anything like that, count yourself lucky. I think most of us would say we know people, and she can tell you how she attacked this head on. And again, a very, very powerful message. We are moving the schedule around a little bit as well. The following week on April 20th, when we do get back together, I'm trying to move the students of the month up to that week because it snuck up on me that it's Derby time again here the 1st of May. So I got Jason Morgan teed up to be our speaker on April 27th to do his annual Derby program. So got some good things coming up for the rest of April. So with that, thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you on Zoom next week.
Thank you, Blaine.
Thank you.